Welcome back to part 3 of the Maton Flamingo tribute build. I guess by this point I am pushing it a little bit with how many layers are being added in this session. But at the same time I was more confident with how I have set the spray gun controls. I was following the 2 passes every 15 minutes method, and my control of the spray gun in general was getting better by this stage. I was giving it 2 layers, and then I would give it a 15-minute rest to flash off or tack off. After 2 weeks and I picked them up and saw how they turned out, I felt that this was the best spray session I had ever done. Remember that I was spraying 2 guitars at once and I was alternating between them. On these videos I made cuts each time I went across to do coats on the other guitar. So I hit 1 layer, then change to the other guitar, then come back for 1 layer, and then hit the other guitar 1 more time, and then have a break for 15 minutes. This video looks like I am constantly hitting the body with layer upon layer upon layer, but as you should have noticed by now, I have markers when I return after a 15-minute break before I hit it again. In the end, I did 9 passes, or you could call them 9 coats, but in the second last and the last rounds, I added 1 extra pass to the back. Here is a shot of my setup overall, a messy workbench for prep and an air compressor. I bought a compressor and gun combo deal from an inexpensive auto products shop. That is also where I picked up my buffing pads, fluffy drill bits, 2000 grit sandpaper, and now is where I pick up my paint strainers. The area I paint in is mostly protected from the wind, but the second garage door would need to be open a little bit to let the light in and a little bit of the overspray out. We have since installed LED lights to the roof of this garage, so there is now a lot more light available. But during these videos I just had sunlight, and I would later start bringing in additional lamps so that you can see them in the reflection of the body and would help the camera to pick up the spray hitting the guitars better. On the back of this guitar, I would have tried flooding the poly a bit more to deal with the dimples caused in the first session. That all began when I had the fan set in the wrong direction. This is the end of the second session, and as you have been seeing, I have marked the start of the first pass after a 15-minute tack-off break. I thought I would include a little bit of video showing how I mix the clear and thinners. I just use an oil-based poly by Cabot's. It looks tinted, but it's actually purple, like petrol or gas as you would call it in America, and not actually brown. With the Cabot's product it's not so obvious, but will tint white to a bone colour as you will see when the chili pepper project is uploaded. I have decided to keep using this product until I find a clear that is 100% clear. I was using a Wattle brand polyurethane, but it was tinted and would definitely darken anything you would spray. To mix I would add 1/5 of lacquer thinner and use a viscosity cup to check that the viscosity is around 17 to 20 seconds. I used to use a tea strainer as I poured it into the gun cup. This was before I knew I could get some proper strainers from the local inexpensive auto products retailer. I also used a glass cleaning product on the body to remove any finger grease or oil and any other specks of crap. I now have some tack rags to help with that also, but I even forgot to take them the last time I went out to my folks' place to lay down some clear. This is the third and last clear coat session for this project. Because the last session only just dealt with the runs issues from the first session, I needed one more session to give me a flat surface on the back that I can happily wet sand and later polish. This was at night and the LED lights are now installed. I also added a light on the opposite side of the camera to reflect in the fresh clear coat, and so you could see the material hit the body a lot clearer. You might see those shiny bits on the tail end of the back there, proving that I was still not flat in that area since the runs, and this session was going to resolve that. I would have now solidified the plan to run 2 thin coats and then give it a 15-minute break to tack off and then come back. On this run I hit the back 2 times and the front 3 times, with a sneaky 4th when it was laying flat. You can really see how thin these layers are going on, and when I hit it the 2nd and 3rd time, how wet it is getting. I would have done a tack test with my finger on a part of the front that would be under the pickguard before proceeding. You can now see how wet looking this coat is. So not only did I learn a lot from doing the spray sessions, watching the videos back taught me to be more thorough with my coating. I noticed I would not make an extra pass below the body so the edges get as much material as the remainder of the surface. This is a pass aimed more at the edges than the sides. I repeated this on the front and back because commonly the edges can burn through easier when wet sanding. Here comes that sneaky third layer, cross-hatching just to avoid any striping that may have been occurring if the fan was not spreading my passes well enough, or if I did not overlap my passes close enough. So there it is at the end of this process. You can see the tiniest amount of orange peel in the coat. You can see it sparkling around the reflection of the light there. I'd call this a perfect last coat to finalise this project as a body build. Here is a flashback to where I cut the template for the pickguard as part of the practice build run. I used it to cut the perloid white pickguard for the red practice build. Because of how brown and grainy the wood stain turned out, I had the idea to try a wood pickguard. At my local hardware shop, I saw this sheet of construction type wood, something you would hide as the backing for some shelves that you would be sure to paint over. But I saw something in the grain and thought it might look good under a clear coat with a bit of stain. So I'm glad I took the time to try something other than what I had planned. I thought I'd leave in how I prepared my router table with my router in it for once, as opposed to my jigsaw being in it most of the time that you see it. This wood I used seemed to be veneered, like a very thin 3-ply. I grain filled it with the ebony grain filler, so it would make a good contrast where the gaps in the grain existed. This also helped to flatten out the surface without sanding it down too much. and where the clear coat was applied, it further flattened out the surface. Right here, I have cut out 5 minutes of the video that shows the completion of this pickguard. I have left in this much of the pickguard creation because this is how I start all the pickguards I have made for these Maton Flamingo builds. As I complete the updates to the end of this video, it only makes sense to make this change. It was experimental after all. Here is how the first pickguard turned out. This has the gold bridge from the practice build, all the original electronics, and I even bought a packet of gold screws and jack plate to keep the gold theme going. For my first official body build, I was very happy how this turned out, however never completely liked how brown the original pickguard turned out. If you are interested in how the 3-volume and 1-tone configuration can be wired up, there will also be a video of me explaining and soldering the original pickguard with this wiring. I have upgraded the P90 pickup, which required a deeper route. I knew I would eventually modify or upgrade the pickguard and electronics at some point, and use the installation of the new P90 as the time to make other changes I had in mind. The 3-volume knob situation was fun for a while, but I grew tired of turning them up and down all the way. I replaced the 3-volume knobs with a Fender brand 5-way switch, like on a Strat which has 3 pickups. I added a switch that changes the humbucker into a single coil with a coil split. I also upgraded the pots to 500K CTS pots, which are one of the more common types for parts upgrades on an electric guitar of this style. I remade this pickguard out of the exact same material, but used the opposite side, and decided to paint it with acrylics almost to hide the fact that it was even made from wood. This is similar to the burst on a guitar with an Antigua finish, only they use a greenish colour for the burst. I really love this new config and how the new version looks. The last upgrade to make would be for the single coil pickup in the middle, but for now I don't see a problem with how it sounds. I hope you have all enjoyed this series, and I really hope you know that there is a series about the practice build for this project. I get more out of watching the practice build because it's where all the trial and error was done, along with making a lot of the templates. I thank you all for watching this video and sticking out until the end. That's all I have to say for this video, so until next time, have a bloody good one.